Riley, it is a victory Monday for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Welcome into Black and Gold Overtime. I'm Andrew Clay, Riley Holsinger. In here, we're going to go talking about the Steelers. We're going to do this show every Monday or the day following a Steelers game. We're still working out the logistics on those Thursday and Monday night games, but we're going to be doing this every week throughout the Pittsburgh Steelers season. We appreciate you joining us here on Black and Gold Overtime. Riley, I know there's a handful of specific things we wanted to talk about, but I just wanted to, before we went, kind of topic by topic, just kind of an overall summation of your thoughts after the Week 1 win over the Jets.
Well, Andrew, that song that you played in the open references going 10-0. The Pittsburgh Steelers are, of course, off to a good track of starting out the season 10-0 by picking up the first win of the season. I mean, that's the first step right there. But it felt good for the Pittsburgh Steelers to kind of pull from behind and go ahead and win that game there. It wasn't always the prettiest game, but under Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin and the football that we've been used to watching in Pittsburgh, they're not always going to be pretty wins, but that one, it was a nice win for Pittsburgh to pick up. We'll forget about it in a couple weeks here.
I think the best takeaway you get from this game is the fact that Steelers trailed in the fourth quarter. They found a way to score 17 points in the fourth quarter. That's what they scored in the first 3 quarters combined. Right. So the fact that they were able to come back, still give up a score, and still end up winning this game on a late field goal, I think that has to give you all the feels of, hey, we did something well. And I know there's a lot of people that want to say, well, it was against the Jets. If you didn't watch this game, I think it's really easy to say, well, you beat the Jets. You came back on the Jets. What did you think was going to happen? But I think if you watch this game, you realize that was not the Jets team we've seen over the last couple of years. And I think the Jets deserve a lot of credit for playing pretty well in this game.
Absolutely. And even Justin Fields kind of talked about it after the game yesterday where he said, yeah, nobody was really expecting that much out of us, especially against a team, too, that added all these future Hall of Famers to its defense and just the roster in general. I thought the Jets played really well in this game, but it also goes back to what Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin always harks on, and that's winning the turnover battle. The biggest difference maker in that game was Kenneth Gainwell going down on the kickoff team. He slips a block, able to force the fumble. Ben Skoranek recovers there. And then the Steelers march right down the field, get another touchdown right there. And that turnover was kind of that was the swing moment in that game to get them back in it.
I think it was Cam Hayward who said after the game, we talk a lot in practice about white jerseys making plays on special teams. White jersey referencing offensive players who wear white jerseys at practice. Kenny Gainwell made forced the fumble. Ben Skoranek recovered the fumble. Both of those guys, white jerseys. That is huge in football when you can get real production out of your offensive players on special teams, because you think of those guys as the return guys, not the guys making stops and coming up with the defensive type plays.
Yeah, and it just comes down to it that you're going to have players on the team that are going to have to do the dirty work, and Ben Skoranek might not be the greatest receiver at all.
What are you talking about?
Hey, if you picked Ben Skoranek to score the first touchdown out there and you betted that, congratulations to you and all of your success out there.
Yeah,
But you need to have players like Ben Skoranek on your team that are willing to do the dirty work out there. And it's something we saw dating the whole way back to training camp too. Like the Steelers were doing this open field tackling drill, and you had all the defensive players on one side, all the offensive players on the other side. Except for there was one white jersey playing defense, and that was Ben Skoranek out there working on his open field tackling stuff. And you know what? You need to have players like Ben Skoranek on your team.
I'm really curious what the Ben Skoranek anytime touchdown line was this week. I have no idea.
But for the first touchdown one, I mean, the odds had to have been through the roof.
Through the roof. If you put a little money on that, you're feeling really good this morning.
And it also dates back, too, to building a connection with your quarterback. Like Aaron Rodgers talked a lot about it at Latrobe, about his open door policy, having teammates coming in, chatting about football, other stuff in life. And the guy that he said took the most advantage of that was Ben Skoranek, and obviously that connection paid off on that first drive there. Rodgers was surprised with how wide open Ben Skoranek was. He was even like, wow, thinking in my head, like, Ben Skoranek's going to score my first touchdown as a Steeler. So kind of neat stuff there with that connection that they built up. I noticed after some of the other touchdowns too, even though Skoranek wasn't maybe necessarily in the play or on the field, him and Rodgers would have a little celebration on the sideline, kind of similar to what they did after the first touchdown.
I thought it was really interesting. Skoranek was in a lot more of the offense than I anticipated.
And that's because he's a great run blocker. Like, he kind of fits
He was.
what Arthur Smith wants to do.
Well, if you look at that touchdown he caught, you had both Darnell Washington and Ben Skoranek in on that play. It was clearly they had their run blocking personnel on the field, and they ran play action, right? Darnell was covered in the flats. I'm not convinced that Darnell wasn't the primary target. You know, as Rodgers rolled out, Darnell was in the flats, but then Skoranek was kind of that second level and was just completely unguarded. Unguarded. And it was an easy touchdown. I don't know if it was a broken coverage or they just bit too much on the fake. I actually tried going back through and rewatching a lot of the highlights this morning in preparation for this because, quite frankly, I'm really good at digesting the game as it was happening. But when I thought back this morning, like, what happened yesterday? I could barely remember anything.
Yeah, and, like, I shot the game through a camera, so my viewpoint is a little different. Like, I'm on the field. I don't get maybe the wide lens of it, but I tried to go back and watch as much as I can just from other angles, like seeing how did Kenneth Gainwell kind of break off of his block there? How did Ben Skoranek get so wide open?
Yeah.
What led to the Jaylen Warren touchdown? Like, some of that stuff is nice to kind of go back through and maybe see it from a different perspective than what I originally saw on the field.
I really wish we had the all 22, but I will say this. I came away feeling just as good about how the Jets performed as I did yesterday. If you followed me on social media, I was very high on the Jets and the way they played. I thought they had a very specific approach they wanted to take. They wanted to come out, run a more traditional college spread offense where Justin Fields was kind of making a one-read throw, but then they were running a lot of ground and pound right up the middle and then using Justin Fields to kind of run on the edges. And I really thought, going back and watching the film, I thought they held to that. Now, don't get me wrong. There are going to be NFL teams that are going to key in on that and learn to stop that. I'm not saying the Jets are going to be world beaters out here. But what I thought they did is they built an offense that I think plays to Justin Fields' strengths. And I said this when we were watching the game live. You know, when Fields had the ball back there with a minute to go, I looked at the person and said to me and said, this is where Justin Fields is at his worst. Mm-hmm. A minute to go, you have to drive the field, and you're expecting Fields to stretch the field. They didn't expect Fields to stretch the field. The Jets are going to try to win games by long, winding drives. You know, that touchdown drive there in the fourth quarter, I think it was a 7.5-minute drive that played 12 plays, and they scored on a 4th and 1 or 2.
Yeah, pretty much 4th and goal at the 1-inch line, essentially.
So that is the offense the Jets are going to try to run, and they're going to try to win with. And there are going to be NFL teams that figure that out. Don't get me wrong. It's the NFL, the D corners. But I thought it was a really good starting point for the Jets offense. And I think if you're a Jets fan, you should feel good about the way you play. If you're a Steelers fan, you should feel good about the way you came back in this game and the way you adjusted. The Jets didn't have the same push. If you watch the tape, the Steelers' defensive line got just shoved around in that first half. If you watch the adjustments in the second half, it wasn't the same. They were not getting pushed around as well. The Jets did a lot more things on the edge and had a lot of success, but at times they got blown up. You're going to see that. It's the NFL, right? But I think both fan bases should come away feeling really good, and that was the game of the week until Sunday Night Football. That was the best game of the Week 1 schedule until Sunday night's thriller, which was an exciting one.
Yeah, I mean, there are two big stories of this game, in my opinion. It was how well Aaron Rodgers played in the Steelers offense, which we can obviously touch more on here in a little bit. But the other story was just kind of how poor the Steelers defense and more specifically the defensive line played against the New York Jets, because this was a team going into the game with a backup offensive lineman after Elijah Vera Tucker was injured, and then with a rookie right tackle there, and you pretty much just let them shove you around. And this is coming after Baltimore shoved you around for 300 rushing yards in the playoffs last year too. And we heard so much in the offseason from the guys on the team that they think this is going to be the best defense of all time. It's going to be one of the top defenses in the league. Well, they certainly did not look like that on Sunday.
Yeah, we're going to dive into some player grades and some position group grades on the other side of the break. We appreciate you watching us. You're watching Black and Gold Overtime right here on your home for Black and Gold Nation. Back here on Black and Gold Overtime, Andrew Clay, Riley Holsinger sitting in with you. We appreciate you guys joining us. We're going to be doing this show each week throughout the Pittsburgh Steelers season. Riley, let's talk about some positional grades. I think this is going to be a fun part of the show because I think there's a lot to talk about. Where do you want to start? Offense, defense?
Let's just start with the most important position in all of sports, the quarterback position here.
Oh,
Kicker.
Okay.
I mean, Well, let's just group special teams together as a whole, Andrew, for that part there.
A plus.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's an A plus, but
It's the only position that's going to get an A plus because Boswell booted both field goals perfectly. Like, I think Chris Boswell gets underrated when you talk about the best kickers in the league because he gets forgotten about. He kicks in an incredibly hard stadium at home, and he goes out there and he booted that 56-yarder perfectly down the middle with plenty of room to spare. And then he probably hit that 60-yard even better.
Oh, absolutely.
Incredible game by
kick.
Boswell. Incredible game by Boswell.
Yeah, no, and Mike Tomlin afterward called him a serial killer. He's cold-blooded out there. And once again, in week 1, Chris Boswell wins them a game. Last year against the Falcons, it was the 6-field-goal game. This week, it's the 60-yarder. And Boswell, I mean, he's just so calm in those moments, too. Like, it doesn't get to him. He treats it just like any ordinary kick. Of course, you guys interview him afterward and stuff like that, and he's just very nonchalant about how he goes about his work.
Yeah, he was just like, oh, you just go out and treat it like every other play, and, good things will happen. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right, Chris. Good things will happen, and good things did happen as you help lead the Steelers. Okay, now to quarterback. What are you giving Aaron Rodgers? Because I've got some interesting thoughts here.
I'm going with an A. Aaron Rodgers delivered maybe some of the best quarterback play that we've seen from a Pittsburgh Steelers QB since late in the Big Ben era there. First quarterback since Big Ben to have 4 touchdowns in the game. He's the first quarterback in a team's debut to pass for 240 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no interceptions. He just looked very in command of the offense. He seemed very calm out there. Like, once he went out there for pretty much that 2-minute drill, if you want to call it that, to lead to Boswell's field goal, he just looked cool, calm, collected, like he's been commanding this offense for a couple years now. And I thought Aaron Rodgers just played really well in his return to MetLife.
I thought, my original thought here was, I didn't think Aaron played as well as people wanted to say. And then I went back and rewatched this morning. I actually feel a lot better about the way he played. I thought there was more chemistry issues. I thought there were some chemistry issues live. I thought there were some chemistry issues between him and the offensive line. I thought there were some chemistry issues between him and the receivers. And for a week 1, yeah, I thought an A grade was fine in the it's week 1 perspective. I wasn't giving it a week 1 perspective. I was giving it Aaron Rodgers based on Aaron Rodgers. 8 based on 15, whatever his number was in Green Bay. 12. I was judging him based on his past performances. But when I went back and rewatched, I actually was more impressed than I was watching live from the press box. I thought he had a much better game. Yeah, there were a couple missed throws. There was a couple timing issues, but I thought the chemistry concerns I had live with his offensive line, where I thought maybe he wasn't picking up the blocks. No, I mean, the 4 sacks were just bad blocking. I thought live, my original thought was, man, Aaron's got to see that guy coming. And then I went back and rewatched and was like, oh no, they had that block for like a moment, and then the guy got beat. So I feel a lot better. I'm not going to give an A. I'm going to give him an A minus. But I thought Aaron Rodgers played really well, and I think if you're a Steelers fan, you have to be thrilled because that was the best quarterback play since Ben Roethlisberger.
Absolutely. Like, if it was any other Steelers quarterback, maybe since late stage Ben, Pittsburgh's probably losing in that game there because it's just hard for me to see any of those guys putting up 30 points, and especially against the Jets defense that is supposed to be good too. Like, they have one of the game's top corners in Sauce Gardner. They have the Williams brothers that are really good players as well. And you know what? Rodgers just kind of looked like what he was supposed to be in New York pretty much. Like, whenever he was at New York, he was supposed to be the savior of the team there. In Pittsburgh, well, at least in his return to MetLife Stadium, he somewhat looked more like what Jets fans kind of figured he would have looked like in a Jets uniform.
1,000%. Okay, running backs. And this is where I feel weird about this because I thought there was way too much Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah, no, I agree, especially early on in that game, too.
And I actually thought there was less Kenneth Gainwell live than when I rewatched it and realized, oh my gosh, he really was out there all game.
But that's Arthur Smith, man. Like, he loves using bizarre running backs in his offense.
But Jalen Warren had a much better game, and Gainwell gave up a sack.
Well, now you're pleading with Atlanta Falcons fans here when they just wanted Bijan Robinson to get the ball, and he's given the ball to Tyler Algier sometimes more than Bijan.
I didn't understand Gainwell's strength offensively when he was in Philadelphia was in the receiving game. I mean, he's an okay pass blocker, But he gave up a sack in this game that I don't think Jalen Warren's giving up. I just didn't think Gainwell looked great ever.
Yeah.
When he touched the ball.
This was a hard one to judge.
Warren even had a really good block that people aren't going to talk about on the Jonnu Smith touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch that play again, Warren had a nice little chip block that kept a linebacker coming from kind of inside the play from getting out and blowing that play up. Warren was kind of a lead block, but it was more of like a pick block that he threw out there and just got in the way enough and just got enough of a shoulder on the guy so Jonnu could get to the corner first. That's going to go unseen, really, in the stat sheet. But I thought Warren played okay. I didn't understand all the Kenneth Gainwell out there. And so I'm going to give the running backs kind of a B-. Because,
oh, wow. That's generous.
Well,
I kind of
because I
figure
thought
C
Warren
plus
played
is my
well.
average. Like C plus is an average for the grade.
I thought Warren played well, though.
Yeah.
Because Warren, he 2 catches, 22 yards. He had a touchdown. When he had the ball in open space, he made things happen. Yeah, he didn't run particularly well between the tackles, but we're going to talk about the offensive line here in a moment, and that's not going to be a pretty great. I don't know. I'm going to give him a B- because Warren played well, but too much Kenneth Gainwell.
I'm going to go C-. I mean, kind of the rushing attack just felt very non-existent. Now, I get what you're saying about some of the extra stuff with Jalen
Yards
Warren.
before contact.
Like, I love Jalen Warren, but it was kind of a below average, just great, I thought.
Yeah, it just...
Like, they just didn't look good.
No, they didn't. I'm a more critical based, or less critical, because I thought Warren actually played well when he was on the field. I
sometimes you have to weigh, though. Like, okay, if Jalen Warren played well and Kenneth Gainwell,
this is why we're both here. We got different opinions. It's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's go to the receivers now. What are you giving this?
You know what? I'm going to give them a B for this one. I mean, they were paired up against one of the game's top corners in Sauce, as I said earlier. I thought Calvin Austin played really well. I think this role that we saw him play on Sunday will fit him pretty well. He played, I believe, more than 80% of the snaps. DK played about 90% of them. Other than that, it was just Skoranek for only 10 snaps in the game. As well as Roman Wilson.
Snaps?
Yeah, Roman Wilson only had 10 as well.
But Skoranek, how many? He had 10 too?
10 offensive snaps.
Okay.
But I'm going to go with a B.
I like that. I thought Austin played really, really well. I thought the pass catchers in general, this is what we're doing, a pass catchers grade. Jonnu Smith and Pat Freiermuth combined for 8 receptions on 9 targets. You really like that on a tight end because the tight ends are catching the ball in some really dirty, gritty places that can be really hard to catch the ball across the middle of the field. So I'm with you. I really like that grade there. Let's talk offensive line. We don't have time to grind each position group as much as we did the special teams.
Yeah, that's fine.
Offensive line play.
D-. Broderick Jones giving up 3 sacks. That's a big concern for me, and I'm going to leave it at that.
I'll tell you what, it wasn't all Broderick Jones, though. I rewatched this. It was not all Broderick Jones. Kenneth Gainwell gave up a sack on the inside, and Troy Fautanu. Now, good. Look, I am not an offensive line expert. I do not know how to grade offensive linemen in a true way. I'm not a former offensive lineman. I laughed. I almost wanted to get Landon Tangwell in on this conversation this morning. But if you look at 2 of those Broderick Jones sacks, Rodgers was forced to move in the pocket and forced to step up into danger because Fautanu got beat. 2 of those sacks, if you go back and watch it, Fautanu got beat on the outside and was pushing his man upfield as he was trying to loop around behind Rodgers. Rodgers was forced up into the pocket where Jones's guy fought off him into Rodgers. I don't know how you grade that. I don't know if that's a failure on Fautanu. I don't know if that's a failure on Broderick Jones, because I do know there is the concept that you want to push your guy upfield and around the pocket. But if your quarterback is forced to step up into danger, and your other tackle gets beat on the inside, like I don't know how I don't know how to grade that. So I'm going across the board giving a D- as well, because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say there.
Yeah, it just wasn't pretty from the line, and you have to keep an eye on Jones moving forward here because you might have to replace him later in the season.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't looking too great. Well, let's take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the defense real quick as we wrap things up on Black and Gold Overtime. Man, Riley, this show went really, really fast, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here on defense, but give me your overall observations of what you thought the defense did. in this game.
So F for defensive line right there. I think that's an easy grade, especially after Keanu Benton was pretty much pushed back the entirety of the game. Just not a great performance from him. He's a guy that the Steelers need to step up and help stop the run here. That front gave up 200 rushing yards to the Jets. And with the Harmon injury and with Cam Hayward only playing, I think about 60% of the snaps. Yeah, 67% of the snaps. I think we just saw way too much Isaiah Loudermilk out there. He played 50% of the snaps, and we all know that he's not a great football player.
Really?
Oh, sorry. Did you want me to run down linebackers and DBs real quick?
No. I just wanted to add my 2 cents. Really frustrated that TJ Watt wasn't more effective. I thought, though, the Jets did a nice job chipping him and did a nice job defending him. I think the defense, we heard the concept of unscouted looks a lot last week. I think that was a big product of what we saw defensively. I don't have super gaping concerns about the defense just yet. I thought they made good second half adjustments. They weren't getting pushed around the same way. I don't have overarching concerns yet.
But when you talk about being the best defense of all time or one of the best defenses of all time or one of the best currently in the NFL, like you need to have a better performance from that. Like you have to walk the talk. They didn't do that. Linebackers, I give a D there. You're supposed to help stop the run if you're a linebacker, especially Patrick Queen. D-backs, I'm going to give a B- here. Garrett Wilson shredded this team, especially Darius Slay, especially on that crosser touchdown. But other than Garrett Wilson, they only allowed 4 receptions to receivers.
Well, they don't have receivers.
No, but I thought Jalen Ramsey looked pretty good in his first game as a Steeler. Played all over the field, kind of like how we expected him to. And I know Mike Tomlin is really glad that he's on his team.
I'm going to try to withhold judgment on the secondary until midseason because I think it's going to take a minute to get into a flow. I did think the secondary looked very rocky. Did not seem to know. It didn't seem to have an identity quite yet. And
no.
Look, I flat out asked Mike Tomlin if they had an idea what this secondary would play, how the secondary would rotate reps and all of that stuff. And he said, yeah, we were very he was confident in an identity.
Set.
He seemed confident in an identity. I didn't see an identity out there, so we'll have to see how that evolves through the season. We just have here like a minute and a half left. I want to talk quick about Aaron Rodgers' comments after the game. He was happy to beat his ex, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, he was happy to beat everybody associated with the Jets organization when he was specifically asked about beating Aaron Glenn. But I think Rodgers, he kind of doubled down on that too. Like, he wasn't just beating the Jets out there. Any competitor has a chip on their shoulder whenever they hear, you're not good enough, we don't want you. Aaron Rodgers heard that. That's pretty much what Aaron Glenn told him. And then Rodgers kind of backtracked a little bit later on in the press conference by saying, you know what, there were some people in this Jets organization that still didn't think I could play. But you know what, Andrew? Aaron Rodgers went out there and showed the Jets that he certainly still can.
Aaron Rodgers absolutely delivered. Now, Cam Hayward, he signed that contract right before Sunday's game. He was asked about it after the game, did not want to talk about it. Cam was very candid. He said, look, it's not like I don't want to talk about it. I just want to focus on the win today. So I expect Hayward will address his situation. On Saturday, he signed not an extension, but some sweeteners. He can get up to $3 million in incentives on his performance.
And if he plays well, the team's going to be the one that really benefits from these incentives because they are tied to the playoffs and postseason success there. Cam really wasn't going to get too much. He didn't really have a ton of leverage in this situation. I mean, even with him on the field, they gave up 200 rushing yards in that game. And he didn't play his best game either.
He didn't.
But you know what? Maybe Cam will work his way back into football shape here, get better toward the middle of the season.
No, he did not have his best game. On that very first run for like 19 yards, he was pancake blocked. That was just a very sour note to start the season on. But we'll see how it goes for the Steelers. Steelers at home to take on the Seahawks this week. We appreciate you watching Black and Gold Overtime. For Riley Holsinger, I'm Andrew Clay. Thanks for watching.